Hello, hello, hello. We're back. This is part two of three of our MLS Fantasy preseason. Derek's breaking it down for you by position. 3 days, three videos. Yesterday, we gave you guys forwards. Today, Derek is going to give you guys midfielders. So, the little bit about I know about fantasy is the midfield is probably the most important position. I think you should spend maximum of your money there. The only reason I know that is because I watched these videos last year when I wasn't playing. So, other than that, I personally have no information for you as usual in these videos. So, Derek, again, the floor is yours.
Uh, what can I say about midfielders? They're my favorite position. They're my favorite position to talk about. Most of last year I played a 3-5-2, and you're like, oh, why are you putting all your money into the midfield? These guys were, quite honestly, the best point producers last year. Jovinko, Benny Faulhaber, Sasha Klestin, players like that. Midfield players produce, and if you want to win in your fantasy team, you need to play 4 or 5 midfielders. You cannot win playing 3 midfielders, because then I quite honestly don't know what the hell you're thinking. Because these guys, all they do is give you fantasy points. And I captained a midfielder maybe half the time last year at least. Actually, I captained Jovinko quite a bit. That's not the point. Um, Key thing about midfielders this year is defensive midfielders are actually fantasy usable this year. Thank God. Thank God. They are legitimately fantasy useful this year. And I mean not all of them, only a few, but key thing is passing stats.
Over 85%.
Yes, yes. And 85% for every 35 passes. So they basically have to connect like 32 out of 35 passes, something like that. I did the math in my head, so it's 31 and 32. Either way, they gotta have 35 passes and at 85% passing rate for 1 bonus point. And let's see, for every 70 passes in the 85%, it's two. But there was only one player in MLS last year that averaged 70 passes a game. Dax McCarty. So, and according to the point values I have up, if you get the 70 passes and 85%, it adds on to if you get the 35 and 85%. So you could possibly get 3 bonus points just for passing. That's really going to help players like Dax McCarty, like Christian Higuita, like
Nagby.
like Darlington Nagby. Trying to think of Christian Higuita is the best player on our team that'll benefit by that by far. Trying to think. Javier Morales. He was already a good fantasy player. This just makes him more valuable. Christian Maidana with Houston. Just players like that. Just look for high percentage passing players. They usually get high assists, and some of them get decent amounts of goals. Uh, Midfielders, they also get a lot of fouls. Both defensive and offensive midfielders. Christian Higuita is one of the top players in fouls drawn last year. I think he was second behind Nagby. Still, that's going to help his fantasy value because every 4 fouls a player receives is an extra ball. The attacking bonuses for the midfielders this year, they're exactly the same. Crosses, blah, blah, blah. And for your defensive midfielders, every 6 recoveries is a bonus point. Not expecting many midfielders benefit from that. Maybe McCarty. Not a ton of people. But yeah, this is definitely where you want to put a bulk of your money. You have $120 million budget, I think. Yes. And let's see. My starting midfield, I'm running a 3-4-3 right now. Start off. Starting midfield takes up 39 million. I'm using almost 40% of my budget just on midfielders. If that doesn't show you anything about how good they are, then I don't know what will, honestly. The highest price for a midfielder this year is $11. That's going to be taken by 3 players. Lee Win, I don't know how he's $11. He had an off year last year. New England doesn't have the hardest schedule to begin with, and they have a DGW in week 4. So if you want to take that risk, go Lee Win in a decent team, go ahead. Sasha Kljestan. How in the hell is he not owned by more people? How? Can someone explain this to me? How Sasha Kljestan, the second half fantasy MVP, probably the best player in MLS fantasy, not named Jovinko last year, the entire second half of the season, has an ownership percentage of 11.9. Especially in that offense. He is the free kick and corner taker, and he's a cheeky bastard at that when doing that. So he's going to get assists from that.
Except when he dives.
Yeah, he's a freaking flopping bitch who needs to shave his mustache, but he's a great fantasy player for you. If that tells you anything. Last year, when Bradley Wright Phillips struggled with his penalties, Sasha Kljestan took him. So, like I mentioned in the forward video, just wait and see who takes that first New York Red Bulls penalty. I'm hoping it's Kljestan because I already own him. And then you got Benny Feilhaber. I'm not really going to draft Benny Feilhaber this year. There's a few reasons. One, his ownership percentage is way too damn high. It's at like 27%.
20.5%.
Really? 20.5? It actually went down quite. Oh, damn. It went down a lot. It was at 26 one time I saw it. Yeah, that's way off. He took PKs when Dom Dwyer struggled last year and free kicks, but Graham Zusi is back. And Graham Zusi usually takes the free kicks, and Dwyer might take the penalty kicks. So I'm not really going to risk Feilhaber, especially at that price tag, because if he doesn't produce, you're screwed. $11, you want your players to produce. 10.5, decent options here. Ethan Finley was the master of assists last year. I don't know how many he had, but he is one of the most fit players in MLS. He plays on an excellent offense. He gets the cross balls into Kai Kamara, who was a freaking goal machine last year. At 10.5, it's definitely worth the risk to take Ethan Finley, especially for that. And even though no one watching this video should support Columbus in any way, shape, or form. Fabian Castillo, I like him, but he is the most maddening fantasy player on the planet of Earth. Here's Castillo last year. 2, 2, 3, 14, 2, 2. I don't know. Then you got Kaká and the Moraleses. All three of those are legit options. Kaká should have a good start. At home versus RSL, Chicago, and New York City. If you want to go Kaká, do it. He's going to look a lot better this year, as you can tell by his 4 assists last night. All on corners and all to Seb Hine. So what does that tell you? He should be a lot better, especially with Molino, because when Molino's healthy, Kaká's a lot better. He's a PK taker and a free kick taker. That is all you want in MLS Fantasy. If you have a player that takes both, why not draft him? He's going to get those extra opportunities. Javier Morales, I think he takes PKs. Don't quote me on that, but he definitely takes free kicks. $10. You're probably looking at Diego Valeri, or actually, how did I miss that? Mauro Diaz. When healthy, he's one of the best players in MLS Fantasy. Not just midfielders, one of the best players. Dude is very talented. He's going to make a big money to move to Europe one day. The dude pull strings in the midfield. He takes Dallas's free kicks and penalty kicks, and yet he's only owned by 12%. Same thing with Sasha Kljestan. I want this guy on my team. Last year, he played, I think it was like 24 games or something like that. He averages 7 fantasy points a game when healthy. That's more than most players can say. 7. That's all you can really ask for. And then there's Ignacio Piatti. Their opening schedule is just insanely difficult, so hold off a few weeks on him. Really, any of the other $10 options are garbage. No one's going to draft the New York City midfielders, am I right? No one wants Pirlo. Really, he's going to screw you over.
What about Poku? We got a fan question about Poku. I know we're not there yet, but while you're on New York City midfielders, is he worth owning?
If it wasn't for the fact that I'm pretty sure the mothership of Manchester City is going to force him to start Lampard and Pirlo, I would not own Poku unless he's starting.
Okay.
I do not know his price tag at the moment. I think it's
I don't know it offhand either, but we'll see it when we get there. It's not that big of a deal.
yeah. I'll find it out later and I'll post it for it. But yeah, it's $10 midfielders. You're probably getting Diaz, Piatti, or Diego Valeri. Few good options there. Very underrated options. Very under-owned options, if you ask me. Because Diego Valeri, when healthy, is just as good as Mauro Diaz. Thing is, they don't stay healthy. Neither of them. That pisses me off. And it pisses off their managers. Because those guys are good. 9.5. Carlos Rivas is way overpriced. Don't draft. $9. What the fuck?
You know, I fell in love with a lot of these $9 players here. Like,
I actually own two of them.
I love Akam and his speed on the counter, and I don't think Chicago has anybody else. And anytime you watch Chicago, I mean, every time he was all over the field versus us. I fell in love. I love Darlington Nagbe. It could just be me loving his name. I don't, I know I know the passing percentage is going to help him, but otherwise,
right. He is a shot taker. He's an assist maker. He draws a lot of fouls. What's his ownership? Let's look that up. I think it's like 27%, 25.3. He's gonna be good this year. He's gonna be good this year because last 10 weeks last year, he really turned it up from his usual 3, 4, 5 point maddening performances. He was getting 8, 9, 10, and led Portland to the MLS Cup. If you watched him in the playoffs, probably the best player in the playoffs last year.
and then you got McCarty here at 9 also.
Passing percentages, New York, Red Bulls, lots of clean sheets. Less clean sheets this year. Miazga's gone. I don't know really who's replacing him. They signed some center back. I forgot his name. But yeah, McCarty is Dex McCarty. He's a good player. Lots of assists. Plays next to Felipe. Plays behind a bunch of good passers. Kleshin, Verone, and Lloyd Sam. They're going to score. McCarty's going to be a big part of it. He's going to get a lot of good passing stats. So those $9 midfielders. And I got another one you didn't mention. I've already mentioned him twice in this video. Christian Maidana. Once Houston's schedule lightens up, Houston's not a bad team. Maidana is an assist maker. He had, I think it was 16 last year in that shitty Philly team. Houston's a lot better than Philly. Let's just say that. Maidana's going to get his assist. I wouldn't worry about him. Really, the thing with midfielders is you can find better options at the 8.5, $8, and even below. But really, you're not spending below $8. The 8.5 options just aren't good, really. The best one's Ozzy Alonso, and he's really just good for passing stats. Because he averaged like 90% passing completion last year, which is freaking ridiculous. It was 4%.
Got Beckerman's in there too. He might get He might get a little play because of the passing.
I'm not drafting him. No, he's
all right.
Not exactly what I call a top tier fantasy option.
Mm-hmm.
$8, the best option, like I've said, for Montreal. Just hold off a few weeks on your Montreal players, and trust me, you will love it. Because after, I think it was week 5, their schedule lightens up a lot. And Harry Shipp is at $8. And that's a lot better situation than playing in shitty Chicago. So, instead of playing with David Ackham, who could barely hit the broadside of a barn last year, he has Didier Drogba, who scored 12 goals in 12 games. He has Piatti. He has Dominic Aduro. He has Marco Donadell behind him. The yellow card machine, Marco Donadell. They're going to be a good team. Harry Shipp's going to get a lot of assists. Thing is, he's not going to take free kicks like he did in Chicago. But he's going to get a lot more assists and a lot more key passes, a lot more of those other stats. Very intriguing option for Montreal, Harry Shipp. So, let's see. Oh, this is a good one. Kevin Molino at $8. I know a lot of people are going to take that risk, and quite honestly, I would too. Right before he got injured last year, you could just see him start to turn that corner where he'd get a bunch of points per game, that Portland game was like, oh shit, I really think Kevin Molino finally found it, and he's going to score a lot more points. So, when healthy, $8 for Kevin Molino is a good risk to take, and I've seen quite a few lineups with him in it. Let's check his percentage.
1.7.
Really, 1%.
Yep.
Damn. At really the only other $8 option I see is Matias Perez Garcia for San Jose, and he's suspended week 1. So that does you no good.
What about Sebastian Legit?
I don't think he's going to start.
Okay.
I would love to have him. I owned him last year, and he was excellent for me. Really, like for his price tag, I think it was $6.50. Loved him. Afforded me the ability to upgrade every other position on my team. But I just they signed Boateng, Daniel Boateng, and he started the Champions League game, so I don't see Legit starting.
And then now we're at 7.5. Here's Poco at 7.5.
Yes. What?
Donadell.
New York City FC. What to say about them? They should have good fantasy options at the end of the year. But the thing about New York City is if Poku and McNamara played all of last year, they would have been in the playoffs. Those two are good players, and we saw it firsthand. Went up there and lost. Poku and McNamara are the real deal, but unfortunately, the mothership wants to play Lampard and Pirlo. So, leave it up to me to say they suck. Because they do. It's fucking New York. 7.5. People have been trying to convince me on Matias Laba. Really, the only thing he's good for with the new stats is tackles. Like, at MLSsoccer.com, they did an article on adjusted points this year with the new stats. He goes from 102 to 147. Whatever. It basically bumps him up from 2 points a game to 3. I'm not drafting him. Other than that, there's no other option below this I would take. None. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Same thing with strikers. You got to spend, but unlike strikers, there are some more budget options, especially in that $8 to $9 range. I think we had the fan question about where to spend most of your money.
Yeah, we did. That's basically what it was. It was where to spend your money and how. So,
right.
I honestly think you answered that, but you could address it specifically.
Yeah, this is the video you want to watch if you want to spend your money. A majority of your budget should go into your front 6 or 7, however you play. It needs to go into your front lines because those are where the good players are.
Yeah, Wes Kirk, which level is the best to invest in?
Midfield, forward, or defender?
Yep. So where to spend your money?
Midfield. Midfield gives you the best combination of bonuses, goals, assists, just everything you want in the MLS fantasy player. They cover the biggest whiff of scoring values here. Like out of all the scoring categories, midfielders cover the most. So, you want the most opportunity to score as possible to get your score up as high as possible. And midfielders is where you do it, even though forwards are very intriguing this year, especially with the shot bonus. If you have a shot-happy forward, there you go.
All right.
Yeah, I'd have to say midfield.
And then Mike McGovern asked the Poku question. So at 7.5, is Poku worth it? If he starts, yes. If he's benched, no.
Yeah, exactly that.
All right. And the only other fan question you can do in the next video. All right. So you got anything else midfield?
Thing with midfielders is you're gonna have budget options come in the middle of the year. You don't need to go full Galactico midfielder, full $11 midfielders, because eventually you'll see that Harry Ship's going to become a great option. These other $8 players are going to be great options. You can use the extra money to upgrade other parts of your team. So just be aware of that. Just keep paying attention to who's playing well. Just, form in general. MLS Fantasy actually has a form indicator. Like when you go to the transfers, it'll go for like all the sliders. Like, how do you want to sort this player? There'll be a form indicator somewhere in there.
All right. Well, guys, that is video 2 of 3, midfielders in the fantasy preview. You've heard me say it before, and I'm going to say it again in the next video at the beginning and at the end. Please join the Fan TV League if you have not already. I'm anticipating that, we'll be in a weekly update on that and a small recap at the beginning of all the Fantasy Outlook videos. I'm really hoping that it turns into some great banter amongst us Orlando City fans, just gives us a little extra something to dog each other about that's not team-related because, I know we always have some team-related banter towards each other too. So
me and banter, man. Don't get me started.
He needs no extra incentive in case you don't know who he is. But anyways, guys, thanks for the watch. Video 3 of 3 coming to you tomorrow. Goalkeepers and defenders. Peace out.